Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Well, everybody, we are so excited to have author Kevin Moore back on the show. We first met him, I'm going to think, oh my gosh, 2022? He came on the show talking about his novel, The Book of Souls, and then he followed it up with, another one called The Book of Demons, but that's not what we're talking about today. But you should go get those. We're talking about his Christmas book series, which is a collection of Christmas stories. And this one is volume 2 that is out now. So I'm saying go get both volumes because why not? And welcome back, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good, and it's a pleasure to be back with you. I always have fun.
I know. It's been a while now. I think the last time we were on a show together, we were on a farm, and now we are on another farm. I don't know what happens, but it's always fun having you on the show. And you want to give everyone an overview of the volume 1, because can't people get both as a set for the holidays?
I don't know if they could get it as a set. Volume 1, or Christmas Stories, 7 original short stories, was this little book of Christmas stories that really people took to, and it actually hit number 1 on Amazon 2 years ago in Christmas. So I always got a lot of great response with that book. Mm-hmm. And so my wife was saying, why don't you write another book of Christmas stories? And I'm like, it's not that easy to write short stories that are full, whole, and have the theme of Christmas in them. But I was like, maybe I'll try and write one and add it to that book. And then I got on a roll. I wrote 11 stories. And I believe, as the writer, and I hate to say this because I love the first book, it was like the engine that could. I didn't know what to expect, and I just got such good response on it. But I think this is a better book, and I think it's better stories, and there's 11 of them. And there is everything from A Very Pink Christmas, which has to do with this Harlow Harper, who happens to be a shopaholic and has no credit left. And she happens to find, in a very fun way, a pink gift card that will always have the balance of $1,099 on it. So that's one of the stories. Yeah. So she's so fun because she's this, gorgeous fashionista, and she's just always broke. And then what does she do with that card? Like, how does it change her with Christmas? Yeah. So that's one of the stories. Then there's another story called Phineas Fitzgerald's Christmas List, and it's about this magical little boy who's 12 years old who lives in New York. And he wants to make a wonderful Christmas for his neighbors, but he runs into ghosts and wobbling souls and 2 neighbors that are mean.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's a fun story because he just doesn't give up. And, so yeah, it was just fun. I just got on a roll with the Christmas stories, and it was.
I like this. And last minute, people could get it right as an ebook.
And they could get it as an ebook. Yep.
And read them on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Sit around as a reading thing on Christmas Day. And sometimes I think, books, books, movies, things like that. Sometimes not everyone's with all their family. And this is a way to kind of engage in the festivities, or if it's just like a few of you over the holidays, then this is a way to share some time together, somebody reading, or, like a communal reading of your stories. That would be cool for a family.
I love that idea. that idea. And what I will do for your listeners, if they contact me on my webpage, kevinmoorepublishing.com, I have an audio of one of the stories done. And we did it for I did the reading for a different podcast, and I will send it to them if they send me their email. And at kevinmoorepublishing.com, I'll send them the audio of the Christmas story. But it's true what you're saying because a lot of people aren't with family, and so I always like one of the I got a really great review, but they said this the stories are, and even in the first book, they're not saccharine. I don't write that way. I write spiritual
No.
stories and I write
Hmm.
uplifting stories, but there are a lot of people that have a hard time with the holiday, for
Yeah,
they lost
exactly.
somebody or they just have there's a lot of people out there that, struggle. And so every character in my book will have a challenge and a struggle, but I try to make it uplifting in the end so that the reader will find hope because I like hope in all my stories. So,
Yeah, and that also goes for looking at the end of the year, right? Um, is that, at the end of the year, you're kind of looking back on the year and going, was this good, bad? Looking at the future. And, sometimes we forget to look at the achievements we've made through struggle and
yeah,
the bright side of it. There's always a bright side of struggle. I know that sounds weird, but I believe in that. The whole holiday season, depending on where you live, I know you're in Southern California,
yeah,
but when you're in a place where it's snowing and it's dark, I love this season because of the light, the whole symbol of light
yeah,
and bringing light to the dark.
I
And I
agree.
think that reminds us, well, I hope that there's always light on the flip side of the dark
No,
side
I
of the moon.
agree. I like that analogy. No, I
Pink
love that.
Floyd
I do.
coming
I love
in,
that. Yeah. And
you know,
it's true because like I do live in Southern California. So right today it's 76 degrees, not very
nice.
Christmas weather, but I grew up in New York City.
Oh,
So
so
that
yeah,
was a
yeah.
very different transition for me. And I also had a very big loss when I was a teenager. My mom died 2 days before the holiday.
Ooh,
So so I owe, as a writer and as a writer of Christmas, I always take all of that stuff into consideration because for some people it's all about, fa la 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 and, what am I getting? And for some other people, there is so much nuances that come with the
mm,
season. They may love it, but there's also that painful memory or time, or maybe they're going through something harsh right now. And I feel like as a writer, I need to entertain them and write something that is spiritual because every character I've ever written about has some kind of spirituality, even if it's an
yeah,
atheist, because I think there's spirituality even when somebody is an atheist because there's the absence of God, right? So, which is God. There's the spirituality because they don't believe in it. So might have a character or two in one of my stories about that. And then I have this story that's called "The Sound of Snowflakes Falling," and it's about this young man, Sebastian Clover, and he has detached from the world really. But the only thing that keeps him going is the snow because he feels like when he walks late at night, he can hear the snowflakes falling, which
mm,
they're not supposed to make any sound, right? But for him, they do make a sound and it leads him to meeting a girl, of course. And so, and that
nice.
changes his whole season. And it's a romance with a twist.
There's always going to be a twist in your books. Come on,
I hope so.
but that's a beautiful thing, and there's something magical about being like the first person to walk on the snow.
Yeah.
Like that's, early, this December, January, we were in Oregon through ice storms and blizzardy stuff, and it was rough on us. Let's just put it that way. It was not our kind of weather. We don't, we're from the equator and from Southern California too. It's like, what do we do with this? And I mean, we should have learned from Wisconsin, but this got serious. And we ended up in an area where they're giving us like avalanche warnings. And we're like, what the heck, man? And
Oh, wow.
driving through all of this stuff, we're still alive. And
Yeah.
it's one of those moments you just really feel like quitting everything. Like, that's it. We're not traveling like we do across the country nonstop, right?
Yeah.
And we suddenly look up and we're in this beautiful, pristine farmland, and there's three bald eagles just sitting up on the phone line or electric line, whatever it was, a line. And we're just like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
And then we get to where we are, and it would snow. It snowed immediately as we got there. And like the next morning, I'm like the first person crunching through. And it's like, and you're not doing harm, right? It's different, I think. I hope not. But it's this adventure, and it's
Okay.
special. And it's a lot of times we don't want to get out in that cold, hard stuff, but there's a beauty and a magic in being out there.
Absolutely.
And a stillness that comes, and the sun rises and sunsets. Oh my gosh. So I have to
And the
be
lighting that
polite
it
about it.
creates, right? The
Oh
snow
man.
creating the lighting at night, in the day. But that's like a gift to you, right? Like you're talking about
Yeah.
the Eagles, right? Like you wouldn't have seen them if you weren't there.
And that's what we are there for. So it's really interesting. And I think Christmas, no matter what your beliefs are, and I think Hanukkah has a wonderful, story too. When you look at, the candle and miraculously getting oil when everyone ran out of oil and fuel. Here's this it's a miracle, right? And they always talk about the Christmas miracle. Well, in the Jewish faith, isn't that kind of a miraculous story too? So it's about dark. You think you're always in the dark, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what this end of year is. And I think you writing these books with short stories, right? That people can handle, that gives, I think now is a very important time where we have to shift our conversation at the table with our family, with our friends. And a good story gives us new fuel for conversation versus all the ranting and raving that's been going on for the last few years. What do you think?
I love the way you put that because I think it is so true and it's perfect. And not to get back to the stories, but there's a story called The
Oh,
Giving
yeah.
Tree, and it's about exactly what you were talking about. It's about discord, and it's about this little town called Harmony, of all places, and there is no harmony in this town.
By the way, I have been to Harmony.
Yeah, yeah, there's a Harmony right here in California, and I always love that Elton
Wow.
John song, Harmony. But it's such a beautiful word, and here's this little boy who is caught between the furor of this town, and him and his mother moved to this place 3 years ago because of its name, Harmony. And then he finds out there's no harmony here, and so his whole goal at during the season it, to put up this giving tree. And it's not about, he's like, this is not about religion. They're not allowed to decorate it. They're not allowed to do anything. And he devises a clever word and a clever idea of how to bring the town together. But there's these people that don't want him to
Mm.
succeed. And so, yeah. So you sort of walked me right into that. But that was the reason why I wrote that story because the theme really is about how people can't talk to each other anymore. It's like if you disagree with me, we become enemies, and that's not
Enemies.
the way it's
Yep.
supposed to be.
No, how boring. I mean, gosh, that's what creativity is about. It's supposed to teach us all of that, right? So that's what you're doing too. Um, there is a town called New Harmony in Indiana, and we went there this summer, and it's next to Santa Claus, which is a town.
Oh wow, I love
I'm
it.
serious. There's a
I
Santa
love
Claus
it.
lake. I know. And we just fell upon it. And it really was like a utopian society. And
Wow.
I'm fascinated. That's a whole other conversation. You know how we get here. But that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole, the utopian society. I go like, okay, what was going on that made you feel like life was that bad and that you're going to move and do all of this? And, what were your ideals? And I think at the end of the day, we're all searching for utopia. And Christmas adds that little sprinkle of magic of possibility. And like you said, hope,
Yeah.
hope. And,
I,
and
I
you have to have the struggle to have the hope.
yes, right. Because otherwise you're a mannequin. You're emotionally a mannequin if nothing changes, if there's no hard times. Um, what you learn from it is, I mean, like that's a Buddhist saying, right? It's like no matter what you're experiencing, no matter how difficult, you are in the place you are supposed to be.
Mm,
And trying to run away somewhere doesn't
mm-mm.
necessarily work because, wherever you go, there you are.
You have to create your own utopia.
Yeah. And start by being generous and I'm
Mm.
not talking about money, just be
Oh yeah.
generous with yourself. Because the one thing we never run out of is love. Not to
Mm.
sound corny, but you know what I mean? Like you may run out of money, you may run out of food, but the well
Yeah.
of love that well should always be pumping.
Yeah, that's an internal thing. That's a, you're born with it. We're born with it. I mean, I don't know what happens with psychopaths and all that, but we
Yeah.
are born with love. I believe that, and I think compassion and that's another thing that Christmas can teach us is, or, just basically the holiday season is compassion, you know, have some
I agree.
compassion, some heart and then hopefully the things we do, the good deeds, right? Over the holiday season, maybe giving someone who needed a meal, that kind of thing, will bleed into the new year,
Yeah.
as that's kind of how my hope is. People really were kind to each other during COVID at one point, and then they turned. So I think, sometimes we need these holidays and observances to get us back on track. I used to always laugh at them, not necessarily Christmas or Hanukkah or anything spiritual. I think that's an important thing, but I think it's the same thing. I always laugh at all these holidays. Now we have a whole podcast dedicated to it. Big Daily Blend, everyone. Holidays, because every day is a holiday. And we should
Yeah.
look at it that way. Every day
Yeah.
we're here is a gift, right?
Yeah. I
And,
love that. That's a
and
great
so,
list.
yeah. And whether it's an observance, even no matter how serious it is, it reminds us about life is a gift. And these holidays help us keep on track. And maybe some of them are really ridiculous. I think like when we're recording this, it's chocolate covered almond or anything day. I'm like, yeah, I want to dip chocolate in something. I mean, I want to dip something in chocolate and eat it. And then you think, well, that's going to take some time. And why not have a little celebration with some friends and family and do something like that? It's special. It makes life, those little tiny things that make life better.
I
And
agree.
so, with Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the different holidays and, Chinese New Year comes up.
With that celebration is so fun.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, right?
like people have asked me in interviews and they'll say like, well, why Christmas? And I just feel like because Christmas, everything is heightened, right? The decorations
Mm-hmm.
are heightened. You have wonderful music. You have great movies. There's lots of food, but also emotions are heightened. And it's going back to what you were just talking about, a gift, right? Even if you're not a believer of the original Christmas, the idea that God gave his only son as a gift to people, that's where the giving started. And then you had Saint Nicholas, and he was for orphan children, and he used to make them wooden toys, and it's the giving. And that's where the giving comes from. It's not just about, oh God, what do I got to buy this person? Like if you take that out of the equation and change it around and say, what does this person need? Which is what
Mm,
Phineas Fitzgerald does. And it's not about product. It's about emotion and love and the gifts. And that's why he can see wobbling souls. And that's why he can see a ghost. And
mm,
and so if we're looking at the holiday and not going, oh, okay, this is just a big commercial, then make it less commercial for yourself, but still celebrate it and still enjoy it.
I love this. It's so true. It's so true. I think what you do as an author is that you get us to look at different beliefs and to maybe look beyond the belief system and that there's more than one side to a story, more than two sides to a story. Do you agree with that, with what you write?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that because of course, I was raised a certain way, but like as I've, you know, grown and gotten older, I have found God in many ways. And in fact, I wrote, for a spiritual blog, and it was called The Language of God. And it's how you connect with whatever your higher power, however you want to describe it. If you
Hmm.
want to describe it, uh, as Muhammad or Jesus or a Buddha or whatever your language with God is, you should be, be celebrating that and finding that out. And so I do
Hmm.
try to bring that into my writing because everything has a spiritual tone, whether it's my spirituality or but I think in the end, we are all looking for something bigger than ourselves, whether that is like source, universe, however you want to describe it, higher
Exactly.
consciousness.
We all want to know why we're here. You know,
Yes, absolutely. I
we,
think.
I just wonder why it has to be some big mystery. What's that about?
Hmm.
Who it was like, it's going to be an author up there going, let's mess with them here. Let's, it's going to be an author. Somebody was an author, that's it. God is going to be an author. Well, obviously, people will say, well, yeah, you know, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, what are you doing? Talk about cliffhangers, you know, you think,
Yeah. Well, it's about the journey. I mean, everybody says that. It's cliche, right? Well, it's all about the journey. And sometimes we forget that, you know what? It is all about the journey.
yeah, yeah, this is
Because
cool.
if you
So
got that envelope early, right,
yeah,
and you had everything you were supposed to know, why stay? Why would you still be traveling, right? Like, I mean, you guys travel all the time because every place you go, you learn something different.
yeah, we're kind of addicted to that.
Yeah.
They always say like, oh, you can't escape things by travel or whatever. I think people can have a temporary escape, but it also brings you back to center of who you are because you're going to have to rely on your core.
Yes.
Everything about your core, who you are, you're going to, you grow. You're going to go through trials. You're going to go through everything, and sometimes it's time to slow down. Sometimes it's not. Detour, detour, detour is pretty much the password for our lives, but it's about it's our way of always learning, like you said. It's our way of truly connecting with people and communities, like actually getting there and
Yeah.
being in it and not just taking whatever the news is spewing at us. It's like actually being present in these places with these people and animals. So I think
And that's the way
it's an
we want to
important
live,
thing.
right? I mean, that being
Yeah. And
present instead of looking, reaching back for the past or, worrying about the future. I mean, when you're living in the moment, you are most alive. And
mhm.
I love the word you use there, detour, because those are, those are like God's, a God call, right? You get a detour and that detour is bringing you where you're supposed to be, even if you don't necessarily think that's what you want.
No, you don't. You don't because you're like, I'm supposed to be here at this time. And the
Yeah.
universe
Yeah.
says, dude, y'all, like, have you not learned yet? Like, you're not really on your time. And when you think about it, I mean, I still, every time stuff happens, I go like, we're actually literally spinning. Think about that, man. Come
Yeah.
on. That's pretty like awesome that we're
I think
spinning
so.
and we can't even feel it and know it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little too much eggnog you might, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but that's a,
Depending on
it's
what they put in the eggnog, right?
exactly. Well, if Nancy's around, well, good luck. You're in trouble. And I don't know if she'll share it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that this is that time. Christmas is, these end of year holidays are a time to reflect, communicate, have that hope. Where's that light? What can we do
Yeah.
as family and loved ones? I think your stories, you're such a great writer. And it's so good to have you back
Thank
on
you.
the show. But we're celebrating winter. So
Yeah.
that is awesome, right? To have you on
Yeah.
for winter, the beginning of winter. I think you were on an equinox or solstice show before.
I
So,
was.
yep. I don't know how this happens. Yeah. It always happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's winter
And,
solstice. Yeah.
yep. So tell me in the audience what is a tradition for you to celebrate winter? It can be Christmas, winter, the holidays, but what's a tradition for you that you still carry through today? Or do you make new traditions every year? I mean,
Well,
would it
I
be
am
like a
learning.
one hit
Yeah,
single, right? Like one
I
hit
am
wonder.
learning. Yeah, I am learning to start new traditions because, you know,
Yeah.
Christmas is like I said. I lost my mom right before Christmas, and my
Mm.
parents. Although I grew up in chaos, my parents were at their best during the Christmas holiday, and
Oh.
so as I got older and I wanted to not like hide from it, my wife and I started very early on. The thing we started giving each other was on Christmas Eve, we would give each other an ornament. So that was a
Mm.
tradition that we had started. And it didn't matter what else you got from each other. That ornament became so important to us. Uh, and we would like try and find those. So that was a really big tradition. And then we started having Christmas Eve parties, and we had a piano at the time, which we no longer have, but we would hire a piano player and we would hand out all of the songs and we would sing. And whoever came to visit, at the party, that was part of the celebration. And then, as you get older, like my kids, I always put lights up on the house. I thought that was the way I was going to go out, to tell you the truth, because I lived at this house, not the one I'm in now, but I used to jump off the roof into this Christmas tree with the
Oh
lights
my
wrapped
gosh.
around me.
You're
And I was
funny.
like, I'm going to hang myself. This is the way it's going to go. But, I didn't. And we did stuff like, for us, we were, my wife and I were both raised Catholic. I consider myself a Zen Catholic now. Um, and we would always have then we started having everybody, all the family, all the kids over on Christmas Day, and we would always have a birthday cake just to remind them that it was bigger than what we were getting off of a
Mm.
store. Like, were we getting the newest, coolest gadget? Was not the meaning. The meaning was we got a gift. And now you have to bring that gift of love, not a gift of a product, but the gift of love with you when you leave the door. So those were
Mm.
some of our traditions. And now my daughter, I'm happy to announce here, is pregnant, and it's going to be
Oh,
our
that's a
first
gift.
grandchild. Yeah.
Oh,
And she
congratulations.
took over Christmas morning, where she does a brunch and everybody has to come in Christmas pajamas.
Oh, now that's cool. That's
Yeah, yeah,
fun.
it's
Come
fun.
on.
Yeah. And I always I try to find new I don't I'm trying so hard, Lisa, to tell you the truth, as I get older, that I'm trying not to lock myself. There are certain traditions I still love. I love getting up in the morning and, saying prayers. This is a time that reminds me of who I want to be, if it's not who I
Mm-hmm.
am. Um,
Mm.
the Christmas time is like, because it's about the gift. For me, it's about the gift of love. It's not about the gift of uh
Mm-hmm.
product. And
Yeah.
so I'm learning, like, this is becoming a this is becoming a tradition for me, being on your show during Christmas and the winter season. Um but
Yeah.
yeah. So
And no, I think that, I think traditions, you just do something new. I mean, we don't have to do the same thing every year. I remember when we were in South Africa and we were on tour with Nancy's art and again on the road, right?
yeah.
And, and we, she was raising funds for the Cancer Association
Oh wow.
and with her art. So she would go and, and do up display and paint and take custom orders and the money, she raised, the profits went to the Cancer Association. And so sometimes we would end up staying with families and we'd visit cancer centers and I had to learn like how to deal with that as a kid. I was
Yeah,
13 and went into cancer homes for kids. And yeah, it was, you
that's a heavy
know,
lift.
yeah, but they really, how many kids went to go see them, you
Yeah.
know, because kids were scared or fascinated. And to
Right.
me, I was at that weird teenage age and it was a big wake up call and learning and wonderful to be able to be there and be silly and, um, I don't know, tell stories and whatever and see, this is important, what's going on. And, it was a big life lesson that it'll never shake me. But we ended up in some little town, as we call Dorpies over there, on Thanksgiving. And of course, Nancy and I we lived in Africa for most of our time, in my life,
Yeah.
and so there was no one to celebrate Thanksgiving with or anything like that. And it was just us.
Yeah.
This family said, no, we're preparing Thanksgiving for you. And we're like, what?
Oh
And
my. I love
we
that.
don't even know what to do. What I
I
mean?
love that.
So they prepared a Thanksgiving meal as best they could, South African style. And I'm going to say it rivals a little bit of American food. I'm just going to say it was so good. And it was you want to talk about gifts. It's those kinds of things that I'll never forget it. I will
Right.
never forget it because they sat and tried to learn American food. We didn't have the internet back then, y'all. We didn't have
Yeah.
computers for like regular humans. If you're in the military or like a scientist, yeah, but we didn't have all that stuff back then. So it was, when
That's a
people go out
beautiful
of their
memory.
way, yeah. And then like Nancy's going, uh-oh, what was Thanksgiving? I have to get my holidays straight. But it was special. And I think those are the things we can do over these seasons. It reminds us giving is joy, receiving is joy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always, sometimes it's hard for people to receive and know that you're going to be able to give. If you can't, give, then you can give in so many ways. Sometimes it's a hug. Sometimes it's reading a story from a book, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
to
No.
others. There's so many ways to give and to receive. Be open to it because if you're giving, your hands are open. That means you can receive too.
I
So
love that.
just
I love that.
yeah,
No, and I like that. I love that story that you were just talking about that they created a Thanksgiving for you because
yeah,
I
that
think
was
we do
special.
get caught up in product and fancy gadgets and
Black
like you
Friday
see all of the car
stuff.
commercials. Yeah, Black
It's
Friday,
like, what is this? We
Cyber
we have
Monday, and
Thanksgiving
it's
dinner. Everybody sits around and says what they're thankful for, gets up early, races to a box store, and beats each other up over a TV.
it's
Like,
silly.
really?
Yeah,
I mean, that
no.
makes no sense to me
No.
whatsoever. I
When you
mean,
can
get a
make
good
your
deal,
neighbors
but
cookies and bring them over, and you know what, they'll be happier with those
yeah,
kinds of things. Like
yeah,
that's another thing we do on our neighbor. We live in a cul-de-sac, and so every year all of us do it. But we bring over a tin of cookies or a box of popcorn or something that's
yeah,
just celebratory without being
over the top.
over the
Yeah,
top over the top.
yeah, that's nice. That's a nice balance.
Yeah, because it all
That's,
starts. Look at the manger, right? We're in the manger. It wasn't a fancy hotel. It was the manger, and then you go to Saint Nicholas, and it was wooden carved toys that he made himself. So it is
yeah.
about, like you said, it's about giving to somebody, and you can give in 100 ways. You can give a smile. You can give a hug. You can give a meal to somebody who's alone.
hmm I remember as a kid really appreciating a Christmas story, and it was when we were living in England, and that was a shock to the body after Kenya. And it was the girl and the matchstick. It was like a little girl, because England went through these rough times
Yeah.
where kids were used in the mines and stuff like that, and a lot of orphans in the streets and things like that. And it was about this girl holding a matchstick and just sitting outside while everyone's doing their holiday shopping and freezing. And that matchstick, because she just kept trying to hold this light up she was able to get this matchstick, and somebody found her because of her holding up this matchstick. I need to go find that story. It was this special story to me as a kid. Like,
I'm
it
gonna look
stayed
for
with
it.
me. Yeah, the girl with the matchstick. I need to go find that. It, and these Christmas stories will stay with you because it's like, and you can read them any time of year, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Christmas in July is there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's stories of good,
Yeah.
so
And that's what I like about the short stories, especially at Christmas time, because everybody's busy. And, if you want to sit down with a cup of tea, you
oh,
don't have to
me
feel like
too.
you're, oh, where was I? You have a story and it's you can read one story or a glass of wine or eggnog, like you
Oh,
were
okay.
talking about. You know what I mean?
I'll do the wine. Hey,
Yeah.
but you know what? This is a thing too. This brings up a really good point. People over freak themselves out over the holidays. The stress, the turkey must come out at this time, the
Oh yeah.
whatever needs to, and the panic, the drama when it's really, hey, let's just get together and have a good time, you
Yeah.
know? And
Absolutely.
so, like you're saying, enjoy the season with, take your favorite food and, snack and drink and sit and maybe watch the snow fall or whatever, but have that book. I love that. I think the readings for families to do together would be awesome. It'd be an
Yeah.
awesome way to have things happen. And no matter how bad and dark things are for folks right now, know that the light is at the end of the tunnel. It
Right.
is.
Right.
It's there. And sometimes it just takes a while. And,
No, I
that's,
agree. And I do think, like you're saying, it's, reading, movies, music. Like I always try to have one of the characters that's really at the end of the story, you could say, oh, this person is hope. This person is the gift of hope. That's what
ooh.
they're giving.
So do you listen to special songs over the holidays?
Oh my God, I love the Christmas song by Nat King Cole because that was my mother's favorite
Mm,
story, favorite song. I love, and it's so happy. It's such a happy memory for me. Have Yourself a Merry Christmas. I don't have a particular artist on that one, but I really love that
mm,
song because it pulls me in a lot of different directions because the year my mom passed
mm,
away, that song was everywhere. And I just was like,
mm,
future shopping. I was like, are my siblings and I, because there's a line in it that says, in the we'll all be together if the faith allows, and it's such a
mm.
powerful line, and
Wow.
I remember thinking of it then we're like, well, we'll always be together, won't we? And of course life doesn't allow that
Mm,
sometimes. And yeah, but I love Christmas songs. And then of course there's so many. And I love Don't They Know It's Christmas Time, Band Aid.
mm.
Do you remember that song?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I do.
love that. I have to
Child
hear
of
that
the
every
80s,
year.
child of the 80s,
Yeah,
Yep.
because
Yep,
that'll
yep,
center you.
yep, yeah. No, I mean, but that's the thing is, I always have to listen to John Lennon and the war is over, but of course it's not. But, it's hoping for, you
Yeah,
know, every time
yeah,
I hear that song, I'm just like, can we get there? And
mm,
so many stories of war, how people handled Christmas during war
yeah,
and how they would just do one tiny little thing,
yeah,
you know, and even to remember what day it was while
yeah,
you're in a foxhole during World War II and it's snowing on you.
yeah. Do you remember that story where I'm not sure if it was, I think it might have been World War One, but it was the Germans, and either the Germans and the English or the Germans and the Americans, and it was Christmas Eve, and the soldiers decided to not fight for those
Mm-hmm.
2 days. Now, on the 26th, they went back
Yep.
to war, but for those 2 days, they stopped fighting.
There was peace on earth.
There was peace on earth.
That is the perfect closing on this conversation. Peace on earth. Isn't that what it's about?
Yes.
For all of these holidays, it's peace on earth. And boy, I hope we can get some of that at some time soon, but we can do that within our own place.
Yeah.
We can
Absolutely.
create that. I
I think
believe that.
so.
That's like those 2 days gave everyone peace, The only thing was probably hard is the families didn't know, you know,
Yeah.
that they
Right.
were at peace. So they weren't at peace. But for those soldiers, mm,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
That is a
That's a
big
great
deal.
example. But yeah, peace on earth.
Peace on earth, Lisa.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kevin. Don't be a
Pleasure.
stranger. Come back on anytime. Have some shenanigan fun with us. And, it's great to hear that you've got another book out. So everyone, kevinmoorepublishing.com. Volume 2 of the Christmas stories is out now. And you can get volume 1 as well. You can order on Amazon. You can go to bookshop.org, which supports bookstores. independent bookstores in communities across the country, around the world, and started out of England. They're a great organization.
Yeah, I love them. I always put them up everywhere. So,
Yeah,
those little bookstores, because people go, well, what if I don't want to buy it on Amazon? I'm like, it's everywhere. I make sure it's everywhere. I try to get my books in the library.
exactly. I'm glad you do that. And we got to support libraries too.
Yep.
Talk about peace on earth. That comes from education and
Yeah.
reading.
All right. The pleasure was all mine. I always have a really good time when I'm hanging with you and Nancy. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
so
Well, happy Christmas. Merry
happy
Christmas. May you
Christmas.
have peace on earth and a wonderful start to 2025, Kevin. Thank you.
Same to you, Lisa, and safe travels to Texas.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.